Hey, what's up guys? How you doing? Welcome back. This video, it's serious, so we're not gonna fool around. My previous other 2-3 videos were just for the laughs. I was having a little fun yesterday. This is gonna be one of those long videos. We're going to talk about many different things. First, we're gonna talk about the TV settings and calibration and why it's so important and what type of calibration should you use. I took some notes. I wrote some things down from various outlets, Digital Foundry, Digital Trend, and AVS forums. These are just expertise people that do this for a living. They're professionals. They do calibration professionally, and I took down some notes, so we'll go through it. I'm going to show you what they're doing professionally, then I'm going to show you like how I do it. So we're going to compare the two, and I'm using Uncharted 4 as a great example because Uncharted 4, it's a great looking game and it looks great on HDR. Obviously you guys cannot see HDR here, unfortunately, but you'll have to just take my word for it when I tell you that there's a big difference between high dynamic range and non-high dynamic range, especially in a game like this that has a lot of environment, sunlight, sunset, but we'll walk through it. But first, let's go ahead and walk on the TV settings. Alright, so this is from the expertise. The first mistake someone would make, and I did this purposely just to show the error. The first mistake someone would do is put the HDR plus mode on top of the HDR. See where it says HDR plus right here? I'm sitting far away from my TV because it's a big giant TV, so I had to move all the way further away. See where it says HDR plus? I did this purposely because I'm just showing you the error that some people make. HDR plus mode is just something that Samsung put on there as a filter for content that doesn't support HDR. You know, like your cable movies, cable channels, stuff like that. It gives that little HDR effect. It's not a true HDR effect, keep in mind, it's a fake HDR effect, but nonetheless it still gives you that high dynamic range effect, but it's not a true HDR effect. So the first mistake is this: don't put HDR plus mode on top of the HDR game that's already HDR, because this game will run HDR regardless of what picture settings you put. And let's talk about that. And one other feature that I think some people seem to have a problem with, someone left me a message stating that, man, I don't see HDR. I don't see HDR. Well, here's the problem. This is why you don't see the HDR. You need to do this. You need to go to the expert settings. And you need to go over here. You see where it says HDMI UHD color? You need to make sure that everything's turned on. These are your 4 HDMI inputs, and you make sure they're all turned on. If they're not turned on, you won't see any HDR effect on it. So this is very important. You have to have this turned on in order for you to have HDR content. And if you are kind of confused, well, does this game support HDR? Okay, go to your, if you have KS8000, go to your remote control, click right here, and you'll see right over here, I don't know if you guys can see it, it says HDR. I'll try to zoom it in a little bit like this. I don't know if you guys can see it. You see where it says HDR UHD 3840 by 2160. Granted, this game, it's upscaled to 2160. It's a 1440p upscaled to 2160. But when you press the button right here, the menu button, the info button, it tells you HDR UHD, so you know that this game supports HDR. Alright, so let me zoom out. I want to talk about some other things as well. As I mentioned earlier, this game already has HDR support, so you don't need HDR plus. You want to make sure you go to the picture settings, go to the special viewing mode, and turn that off. Look the difference it's going to make when you turn this filter off. You see, having this filter on top of the HDR, you're killing the experience. You need to turn this off. Look at the difference. Look at that. Let me turn it back on. Look at the difference. You see that dimming? You guys cannot see it, but you'll see a little dimming. Okay, keep looking right here where my finger is. Okay, right on that corner right here. And in about 3 seconds, I'll turn this off. Look. You see? Like the blue sky gets dimmed out. You don't want that. See, you don't want this filter. You want to turn this filter off. So turn that off. The first mistake someone would make is have this HDR plus mode on top of the HDR. Turn that off. That's from the expertise. That's what the Digital Foundry is saying. That's what AVS Forums is saying. And looks much, much better. Turn that shit off. You can turn the game mode on if you like. Because game mode will give you a little bit of that 19 to 20 millisecond response time. Input lag. And you want that. And I turn my game mode on. There it is, but I have to go over here, go to the expert settings. You see, this is not good. Digital Foundry is saying you have to get the backlit all the way up. Turn the backlit all the way up. Contrast, turn it all the way up. Sharpness, they're saying turn the sharpness all the way down. That's what they're saying. Turn it all the way down. Color, it's 50. You can keep it at 50 if you want. But I'm going to move it up a little bit. I'm going to move the color up to like 60. And brightness. Now you can move the brightness down, but you don't have to. They're saying keep the brightness at 40 or 45, but you can keep it at 45. They're saying you keep it at 45. And another thing you want to do, you want to go over here and check those filters. Let's see what type of filters do we have here. See, all the filters are off. Dynamic contrast, it's off. Now, color tone, you can use standard, but they're, according to Digital Foundry, this really doesn't matter to them. Either one of those will be fine. But for this environment, warm would be good, or warm 2 would be good. Like, see, warm 2 gives you that natural feel to it. You see? You guys cannot see it, but it gives you that natural feel to it. Now, dynamic contrast, you don't want this on. Here's what happened if I turn dynamic contrast on. Look at this. Look at that brightness. You don't want that, man. This is too bright. This is too bright for your eyes. You want to turn that off. You don't need that. Now, there's another thing you can do that you need to check. They recommend go to your TV settings right here. Go to your TV settings and go to the sound and screen. Resolution, automatic recommended, HDR automatic, deep color automatic. And so you keep everything at automatic. You know, this is important. Keep everything at automatic. You don't want to mess around with this. You don't want to put the wrong output. Then the picture might flicker, they're saying. So you want to keep everything at automatic, you know. This is a color format YUV422. I don't know what that means. I have to look it up. But it automatically detects the format. So that's what you want to do. You don't want to mess around with this unless you're a professional, unless you really know what all these things means. If you don't know, then you're just going to screw up your TV settings. So keep everything automatic. This is what they're saying. Unless you're professional and you truly know, then you can kind of like go with the RGB and choose different types. You see, they have different types like RGB or YUV. I can go with the RGB if I want to, but they don't recommend, but I'll try it anyway. Go to the RGB range. I can put full, automatic. It's automatic. And you see that sunlight. You see where the Drake's head is. That's the HDR doing its job. You know, it's not hurting your eyes. It's just perfect. It's just natural. That's what you want. and even right here. Okay, so let me go ahead and go to my PlayStation settings again, and let me turn off certain things over here. Let me go to the settings. You want to keep this on automatic. This is what they're recommending, so keep everything on automatic. Automatic, because you don't want to mess around with this. That's what they're saying. Just keep everything on automatic. Let the TV choose, because TV will know exactly what output what input you're putting in, so it'll detect automatically for you. Now, these are all what the professionals are saying that you should do. Another thing that they said that you can do, they also recommend not using any filters at all. Like, this is another recommendation that you can do. If you truly want to get that proper quality, hold on. Let me go back to the game. If you truly want to get that proper quality with like maybe 18 to 17 millisecond response time, you can turn off all of this. Because you already got HDR. Look, this HDR is already playing, so you don't have to worry about HDR, okay? The HDR is being outputted to your TV. You have a wide color gamut, you're all set. You don't have to worry about that. That's already being outputted. You just have to make sure you turn it on your game, in the game option. This is another feature they're recommending that you do. Go to the special viewing mode and turn everything off. Just make it default. Turn this off too. And look at this quality now. Look at the greens down there. And look at the response time. Really good. Really good. That's another feature they recommend you do. Turn everything off. Because HDR is already playing. You see, HDR is already there. See, it says HDR. So, what have we just learned about 12 minutes? Well, we'll learn that if your game or your movie, it's HDR capable, this Samsung TV will detect it, and it will let you know the HDR is playing when you start something. When you start a 4K UHD movie, or when you start a game. Certain games you might have to go to options, like right here, and turn it on. But some of them, you don't have to do that. Some of them, they're already on. But most likely, you will have to turn it on right here. On a display. See where it says HDR? There. Let's keep it at 3. Let's see what happens. And it looks great. Even without all these filters off, you know, the viewing filters off, it looks great. There. Okay, so let me go ahead and exit this game. Let's go try some other game. Let's go try Watch Dogs. Let me exit this and let's try the Watch Dogs. You see, you're letting you know HDR video is playing. You see, I turn all the filters off, meaning all the viewing modes like gaming mode, HDR plus mode, sports mode. I turn all that off. And you get a little bit more of response time from 19 to 20 to like 17 and 18 milliseconds, which is pretty good. Now I'm going to show you my settings. What I just showed you here, it's what they're telling you what to do. You can use the game mode if you want, or you don't have to use the game mode, because when you turn off all those filters, the more filters you turn off, guys, the more response time you're going to get. That's just the bottom line, because you're not putting any pressure on your TV. Also, you can turn off that motion, the auto motion detection, you know, where it makes the pictures go faster. You want to turn that off too, because that's also is going to be giving you some bottleneck on your input lag. So you want to make sure you turn that off too as well, especially if you're playing Call of Duty game. But now let me show you what I do. Someone mentioned to me that this game, it's HDR, and if that was the case, if this was HDR, it would have showed up HDR, guys. But it's not HDR, it's just UHD. Okay, you see where it says the menu over here? Let me get a little bit closer. I'll keep it like this, a little bit closer for you guys. So see where it says UHD 3840 right here? There's no HDR. This thing doesn't support HDR. If it did, this TV would let me know this game supports HDR. And yeah, you can go to settings here and you'll see that there's no HDR here. The game doesn't support HDR. There, I'll keep it at 40. The reason I'm using this game is because I want to show you, this is where you can put that HDR plus mode on. This is where you can benefit from that HDR plus mode. And however, when you turn that HDR plus mode on, you will lose a little bit of response time. You know, there's no perfect settings, guys. You're always gonna have to sacrifice somewhere. Okay, do you want to enjoy your game in more vividness, but have a little bit of less response time? Or do you want to sacrifice on the quality and just have as zero input latency as possible? So you have to kind of ask yourself, what do you want to do? And see, this is, I'm here by the beach, a perfect example of that. So let's say I use my HDR plus mode. Go to special viewing mode and go to HDR mode. Okay, we're gonna go to HDR mode and turn it on. And look what happened. Keep an eye on the sky right here, on that sky. Keep an eye right there. You see how it's dimming? You guys cannot see it, but see, that's giving me extra detail. I just got an extra detail. I'll turn it off. See, when I turn it off, I lost that detail. So on the game that doesn't support HDR, this is where you use their HDR plus mode. This is the only time you use HDR plus mode. Only on the game that doesn't support HDR. That's why they made it. That's why it's there. However, when you do that, you will have a little bit of input lag. I have to be honest. You know, I'm not gonna lie. You will have some input lag. Here, I'll do the same thing. Keep an eye on the sky right here, right there, on this corner. See where my finger is? Keep an eye on that. I'll turn it on. Check it out. You see, it's dimming. It's dimmed. I'll turn it back off. It's brighter. Now, when I turn it off, I get much brighter pictures. So everything's kind of bright and it's unnatural. Like you lose all that depth of field and detail. When I turn this filter on, HDR mode plus on, with 1000 nits, check it out. You see, everything's much vivid here and deeper in color. Now, other things you want to do. Now, backlit, you can go a little bit higher. There, go a little bit higher with 20, you see? If I dim it too much, this is what happens. So you want to make sure that your backlight, because you already got that 1000 nits, go all the way up. Brightness, you can keep it at 35. Contrast, you can go a little bit higher, like that. You see how the sun looks natural now? Hold on. And then, sharpness, keep it at 0. Color, you know, color, you can go 60, man. That's fine. You can keep the color at 60. And that's what I do. And look what happens right here. Hold on. Auto Motion Plus, honestly, you can use this, but here's what happened when you use this. You lose even more latency here. Means the input lag is going to be much bigger. You see? I mean, it's not bad, but I can see it. I can clearly see it. I can feel it. Like when I'm moving a controller, So I like to turn that off, dude. I turn that off. I only watch that like when I'm watching a game or a movie. So I like to turn that off. So let me go ahead and turn that off. Let's turn that off. Auto Motion Plus off. Or if you want to, you can customize it. You can customize it and just turn everything all the way up. That's if you want those fast moving pictures to be fast. You can do that. But again, remember, you're going to be losing that input lag. See, it's horrible now. Look at it. It's horrible. And you don't want that. So you want to make sure you turn that off, dude. So you come over here, go to the settings, go to picture mode, expert settings. You want to make sure you turn this at like, I don't know, 5. Turn it at 5. And then come here and turn that off. You don't want that. So that's basically what I did here. That's what I did here basically. Backlit all the way to the 20. Brightness to the 35. Contrast to 100. Sharpness to 0. Color at 60. That's fine. And digital clean view. You can keep that automatic. Auto Motion Plus to turn that off. Smart LEDs. You can keep them high. And HDMI black level, you can keep it at high. Dynamic contrast, you can keep this as high too. That's alright. Because remember, this game doesn't have HDR, so you can keep that at high. You know. Now you can use the warm. I'm gonna go with the warm 2 right here. Because see, warm 2 gives me that nice natural feel to it. And that's what I want. See, that's exactly what I want. So I keep it at warm 2. You see how beautiful it looks now? You see the difference now? And look, if I turn the HDR plus mode, here, look what happens. Check this out. Look what happens if I turn it off. Go to expert settings. Hold on. Look what happened. Let me keep it like this. Keep looking at that sun right here on the top right there. And look what happens when I turn this off. Look. That's what happens. Everything becomes much brighter and brighter. And you lose that detail. When I turn it back on, see, I get that 1000 nit detail. And that's what you want. And it looks more natural. Like the sky and everything here looks more natural. And that's what you want. You see, this is the way it should be. This is what the HDR Plus mode helps. You see everything here, man. The detail in the sky, you know, it's not hurting your eyes. It's natural, and that's exactly what you want. But the only reason I'm using HDR Plus mode here, it's because this game doesn't support HDR. So this is a cool feature that this TV has. That you have that ability to use the HDR Plus mode filter to help the quality of the picture, even though it's not the real HDR. You know, it's a filter, but nonetheless, it still helps the picture quality, and especially the case that's right here. See how beautiful this looks. Yeah, I can zoom in and give you a little bit more detail here if you want, and that's exactly what you want. On your TV. See how everything's easy on eyes, the beach, the seashells, the shadows, and that's exactly what you're looking for. That's exactly what you want. Oh shit. Oh! Ah, fuck. Got killed. Anyway, I'm not doing a gameplay here. I was just trying to show you something. Alright, next game I want to go and do, it's Call of Duty Modern Warfare. I want to show you a couple of things here. You see, this game, it's also not HDR. It doesn't support HDR. Okay? It does support some upscaling. I'm not sure what's the resolution of the upscaling, but it doesn't support HDR. And how do I know that it doesn't support? Because this TV didn't detect it. And right here, you see right here on the display, it lets you know if it's a HDR or not. So I can always tell if it's an HDR. But here, you see, it says UHD, upscaling. It says 2160p, but it's upscaled. This is being upscaled. I'm not sure what the resolution is. Could be 1440p. Could be 1800p. I don't know. I haven't looked that up yet. But it's upscaled to 4K. So on this one, what you want to do as well is you want to use that HDR plus mode. That's what you want to do.
Captain Price, Al-Assad just executed President on national television.
The Americans have plans for Al-Assad, and it's too late to do anything for Al-Falani. But in less than 3 hours, codename...
And I'll show you the difference between HDR plus mode and the game mode here. But for this specific game, it's a bit tricky. It's a bit tricky because you're playing Call of Duty Infinite, Call of Duty Modern Warfare. You don't want to use HDR mode plus that much because remember here you need the performance. So the best thing to do here, I'm gonna show you in a minute. You see, this is HDR plus mode, and it definitely helps the quality a little bit. See, like right here. I mean, the response time, it's not that bad, honestly, even with the HDR plus mode on. But there is a huge difference when you turn on the game mode, which I'm gonna do right now. Here, I'm gonna turn it back to the game mode. Let me go over here to the game mode and special viewing mode. And once I turn this off and turn the game mode on, it's gonna be a drastic difference. You see, everything's faster now, and for a game like this is exactly what you want. You want to be on a game mode because now the response time is gonna be much better. I'm just messing around, you know, just to show you the response time. And it's much better here. And look what happens when I turn on to the HDR. Check this out. HDR plus mode. Look what happened. Turn that off. Yeah, you get that quality. You get that quality, sure. But the response time here, it's like shitty. So for this game, you see the response time, it's really not that good. So for this game, competitive games, you want to make sure you use the game mode. Because this is all about being competitive. So you want to make sure you go back to the game mode here. Hold on. Special viewing mode. And then turn this off. And go to the game mode. And turn the game mode on. And look at the response time now. Look at this. Much better. Much better. Look. Much better response time. And that's what you want for certain games like this. The TV settings are pretty much, I would keep them the same here as I did before. Let's go to the expert settings. I would keep it at backlight, you can keep it 20, brightness 4500, color 60. All the filters are off. Black level auto, dynamic contrast off. Keep it at warm too. So you want to keep everything as it is, and hopefully this helps you guys. And also keep in mind, I've been getting a lot of questions like, what's the best settings? There are no such thing as the best TV settings, man. Because every and each content, it's different. Okay, when you're watching a movie, the content is different, okay? Because, okay, let's say you're watching X-Men Apocalypse, has a lot of popping colors. Remember, you're watching something that's HDR. So you want to make sure that you have... You don't want to make sure you don't have the game mode on. You don't need the game mode. You want to make sure you have a lot of motion, fast-moving pictures on. You want to keep the auto motion focus on. You want to keep that on. You can put the high dynamic contrast high because you want those colors to pop out. So every content is different. You know, movies are different, and games are different. You know what I mean? And that's what you have to do. You're always going to have to tweak certain things. But here's the thing, you know, if you are only playing Call of Duty games, you can keep your PlayStation, your Xbox in game mode. But if you're not playing Call of Duty, if you're just playing a variety of different games, then you're going to have to go back and forth, you know. Certain games you're going to use HDR Plus mode, and certain games you're going to use the game mode. Now, you don't have to use HDR Plus mode on Watch Dogs 2. That's only if you want to enjoy that scenery. The only reason I use HDR Plus mode on the Watch Dogs 2 is because I want to enjoy that scenery. Because it's not a competitive game. Now, Call of Duty here, you definitely want the game mode on because you're being competitive. You know what I mean? Unless the game supports HDR, you don't have to do nothing after that. So hopefully this kind of helps you guys out a little bit. You know, people ask me about my movie settings. Well, here, I can show you my movie settings really quick if you guys want me to. But remember, I cannot play any movie. I can just show you a little still and then show you what type of settings I use on the movie. Okay, like for example, right here on the X-Men Apocalypse, the settings that I'm using right here, obviously, are going to be natural mode. I'm not using HDR Plus mode because this movie already supports HDR and there's no reason for me to, you know, be using any of that stuff. Now, I can use HDR mode plus on, but I don't think it's going to make much of a difference. But let me show you. Here, I'm using it, but you don't see that much of a difference, honestly. You know, there's not that much of a difference, and it only makes it look worse. And on the expert settings, backlit is 20, brightness 45, but honestly, you can move the brightness down a little bit if you want. Color, I would keep it at 60. I would keep it at 60. Digital clean view, auto motion plus, automatic, smart LED high, dynamic contrast. You can keep it on, but you don't want that. See, you don't want that. See, it makes the picture look even worse. So you can turn that off. You can keep it at warm, or you can keep it at standard. For a movie, I would keep it at standard, man. And there you go. Now, if you want to, as I said earlier, you can use the HDR Plus mode, but it's not necessary, really. But you can use it if you want to. Like, for example, right here, you know, HDR Plus mode does give you that little bit of depth and field to it. But since this movie, it's already remastered in HDR, there's no reason for you to put that filter on. It's kind of like beating a dead horse. So you want to turn that off. You go to special viewing mode and you turn that off because there's no reason for you to turn that on because this movie already has the HDR. It's already remastered by studio the way it should be. So you turn that off. Because the movie is already playing in HDR. And when you click on the option, you'll see that the movie is on HDR. So basically, these are my settings for the movie right here. I keep the backlit at 20, brightness at 35, contrast at 100. Sharpness, always keep it at 0, man. You want to make sure you turn the sharpness down. You don't want that sharpness all the way up. Color, I keep it at 60. Because I like the colors to pop out a little bit more. Digital clean view, I keep everything, all these filters at automatic. Dynamic contrast, you can keep it at high, or you can turn it. I turn that off because you don't want that, because you already have HDR. See what happens when you turn the dynamic contrast all the way high? Then you're killing the HDR. So you want to make sure you turn that off. You see, now it's much more natural when you turn that off. So you want to do that. And the picture looks just fantastic. You remember, what I'm trying to show you here, guys, is you got to know what content are you watching, okay? There's no such a thing as Holy Grail calibration for everything. It doesn't exist, okay? Because everything's different. Every movie is shot differently. This movie is shot differently than Man of Steel or Batman v Superman or Star Trek or Oblivion. All right, everything's different. All and each content, it's different, and you have to adjust for every and each content differently. Okay? But for this particular film, especially all of the 4K UHD Blu-ray movies that already are remastered. Remember, these movies are remastered in HDR. So if your TV supports HDR, you don't have to put any goddamn filters, man. You don't have to put any filters. Turn them filters off, because you already have remastered HDR, wide color gamut movie. Okay, all you have to do is make sure that your HDMI UHD color, it's on, to take the advantage of that wide color gamut. So that's my movie settings that I do. It's a bit tricky. Like I said, there's no such thing as a perfect TV settings, picture TV settings, calibration, because every movie, every game, it's different, guys. You're always going to have to tweak shit up and down, left and right. You know, that's just the way it is. You know, and I know some of you hate that, but just look, you don't have to do anything. You can watch it on standard. You're still going to enjoy it, but you got to ask yourself a question. Can I get the best out of this movie? Can I get the best experience, quality picture out of this movie? Yes, you can, but you got to tweak it a little bit. You know, and that's what I do. You can write some of these settings down on a book. Write them down somewhere, and then, so if you want to ever impress someone and show them a certain demo or a movie, you can go ahead and do that. You know. But that's, you know, the bottom line is this. I know it's been 40 minutes now, almost 40 minutes. The bottom line is this, guys. There's no such thing as a one holy grail calibration. It doesn't exist. They do have some standards that they put out there, but those standards are not that good. You know, you're not going to get the best out of everything. Because, like I said, every content is different. Every movie is shot differently. Every game, it's made differently. So keep that in mind. You're always going to have to tweak things up. You know. So hopefully this 40-minute video kind of gives you an idea of my settings and how I do it. You guys can fast forward and rewind this and look at my settings again and look at the certain game modes settings that I did in this video and check it out. But remember, there's no such thing as a perfect holy grail calibration TV settings. It doesn't exist. This is something you will always have to tweak up and down. You know, it's just the way it is. Alright, so if you liked this video, hit the thumbs up. If you didn't like it, hit the thumbs down. And I'll see you on the next one. Have a good one, guys. Take it easy.